Well, welcome everybody to Forging Brains podcast. Today we have two pretty special guests. Me and probably a lot of other people consider our horseshoeing competition mom and dad of Craig and Christine Trnka, and they are the founders of the World Championship Blacksmiths.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you guys for joining us tonight, taking some time out of your day.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
I tell you what, I feel all the love. It's like listening to all the podcasts. It's like Chris and I always wonder if we should have another season, and then it's like when you hear all the podcasts, we've heard nothing but good things and lots of. It does your heart good to hear all of what you guys have been broadcasting, and I mean, it probably didn't set out to be a WCB like promo, but. When I listen to it, I can't help but think of all the people who have said positive things. It's really, really, really cool.
In a sense, like we wouldn't necessarily know the people we know if it hadn't been for going to like your guys' contests or, or even knowing those people or getting to be around those kind of people. So, yeah, in a way, you've built a community.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are doing a great thing with it too, though. With your podcast, we're really proud of you guys. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. We kind of completely you guys have been around it a bunch of like when the fires are all out and everybody's standing around and stuff, like some good conversations flow. And so it's like what we're trying to kind of bring out a little bit is just bring that to everybody that can't make it to them all the time.
Yeah, I think that is what it's about. You don't always have to you got to take the good with the bad. Sometimes you can just take the good with the good.
Yeah, it can be that easy sometimes.
Yeah, you don't always have to have that uncle that is like the bad part of Thanksgiving. Just quit inviting that person.
Yeah, screw that guy. No one wanted them around anyway.
Yeah. I like that.
Well, man, if we could kind of just get a quick little cliff notes about Craig, who you are, and Christine, who you are, and like how you guys have met as a couple, and then we can kind of go from there.
Well, I think that it's kind of funny. Like as far as I have a good story. I have a really good story as far as like how we met. It's like I met Christine. She was managing a dry cleaning store, and I would go and get dry cleaning done and stuff like that. And I like this guy that was living with me because I was separated at the time. He was like, "Man, she's pretty hot," and I was like, "Yeah, she's pretty hot." And so I went in. Well, I went in one day and I said, "Hey, would you like to go out on a date?" And I had Bodie in a car seat, and I never changed my checks or nothing. And she's like, "You're a piece of shit. You have a kid in the back seat, and you're married, and you're gonna go out on the prowl with like." You're a married man. You're a piece of shit. And I was like, it's not that way, but it. And she like kind of ran me out of the store. And so I was like, Eli was like, how'd that go? And I was like, not very good at all. And so it was like, I asked her to come up to the house, and she could tell by the way my house looked that I was a bachelor. You know what I mean? Because you have a clean house with ketchup and mustard in the refrigerator and like a upside down glass in the sink that you just
pretty much how my
it
house
out
looks.
And turn it upside down. So and we ate like vegetables out of a can and stuff like that. So it was pretty much like I was not married. I just
is Eloy who you were living with?
Yeah.
The guy that used to drive the trailer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So eventually she knew that I wasn't like going out on the prowl and stuff, but it was
you weren't living two lives at that point.
I wasn't. No, exactly.
Yeah, it was a little awkward though when you have Bodie in the mix, and he wasn't much bigger than little Quincy is right now.
No, he was about the same size.
That's pretty wild. That's pretty. So did Craig just win you over with his just undying charm?
Well, it was funny because there was just like 4 or 5 of us girls that worked in the dry cleaners, and we would see him pull up in his rig, and all of us would be like, okay, whose turn is it today? Like, everybody wanted to wait on him because he was super funny and charming.
See?
I thought it was gonna be opposite when she said whose turn was it.
You deal with this man today.
Yeah, the rest of us are gonna hide in the back.
Yeah, you could put what spin you want to on it, man. You can do any kind of spin you want.
When he asked me if I'd go out with him, at first I was like, oh, yes, right? And then it was like, oh, wait.
Yeah.
But it all worked out good.
It did. It worked out really good.
Yeah, that is great. No, thank God that Craig couldn't do his own laundry.
He still can't if that makes sense.
Yeah, I believe. Son of a bitch can make an apple, but he can't wash it.
Yeah. Keeps all my stuff fluffed up if you put that apple in there with it.
Oh. Well, we'll try to I'm sure you've been on a lot of podcasts too, Craig, of what you've won, so we won't keep you with that. I think today I would like to hear is what made you guys drive and start the World Championship Blacksmiths.
We went over, and I say we because I went over there 1 or 2 times, and then I met Chris, and we went over there, and you go to England, and went over there 10 straight times and just get stomped, and we would make progress in one area and we would lose in another area. We'd make progress in one area and lose in another area. And you start seeing, it's like England, it's a good size. They have a great, the best accreditation system in the world, the best learning. It's the best way to learn how to shoe a horse. And so we went over there, and we were like, you know what? We just need to replicate what they do, because we have a big country, we have a great country, we have a great horse community, we have lots of stuff going on for ourselves. So we have to take what's good from their system and bring it here. And we didn't totally copy what they did, but we copied a big chunk of it, which was a big difference at the time was go-rounds. We had contests where if you went to the Oregon Association, if you went to the Colorado, New Mexico, the Four Corners, whatever, it was always back your rig in. Everybody went at the same time. We picked up the shoes, and then we had another class. Everybody picked up the shoes. We have another class. And so it was like, I might be right next to Jim Poore or Shane Carter, but I didn't learn a damn thing from them because I was trying to beat them, not so much trying to see what they were doing. And so the single most fundamentally different thing that I saw from the English system or the UK system and ours is they had go-rounds and stations so that you were a competitor one time, and if they had 6 go-rounds, you were a student 4 times or 5 times. So just the fact that you have to watch more than you compete is you gain so much ground so much faster.
I know for me personally, that's the easiest way for me to learn is just by watching and seeing. If I'm trying to learn how to make a shoe, I'll watch your videos and see how you make it. And then usually that'll help me learn and get better. So I totally understand why you're saying that. And I can agree that it has helped me throughout the years just by being able to watch all those people compete during their goes and, learn something that way.
Like Chris has always been, I don't know a better word to say, like a seamstress or someone like her mom and her, they sew. So what is the word? Is it a seamstress or someone who likes to sew and make stuff with clothing and stuff?
I guess, a person who makes clothing is a seamstress.
So because it's like, so Chris does that. So it was like that was kind of where Chris and I joined at the hip. Was she started to play with commercial avenues of like embroidery and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that helped us tremendously, just being able to do our in-house embroidery, because it was like 5 to 7 times a year we have guerrilla marketing.
Yeah, but it also creates this like this look, because I remember asking you, Craig, a while back, like it was like a few years ago, where I was like, oh, why don't you guys offer like more of these things for sale? And you were like, it's kind of like going to a concert. When you're wearing that shirt, everybody knows you went to that concert, not that just you ordered it online. And so like I think like in a way having like the look of like, because they all like your guys' gear has a completely different look to the other things that are on the market. It's like right away that guy went to this thing, and they went, and like it creates this a community all on its own of just that. I do think of like the embroidery plays a huge part in it. Like,
Oh yeah.
Without a doubt. And when you talk to people like Chris and stuff, all of a sudden people say, well, did you go to Edgewood in 2015 or something like that? And you're like, yeah, I was at Edgewood 2015. Oh, that was the time when we did this, this, and this. And it was like, and you talk to Andrew, both the Andrews, and they were like, yeah, I was like, and it's like, it does make a connection, because you there's like enough people to where, and not only that, is before you meet someone, you don't really know if you met them. So like there was someone in Edgewood, and you might have been there, and you like until you really know that you're a lifer, you don't know if you met those people at it. Like they might not have known they were a lifer, and you didn't know you were a lifer. But then once you go 5 years down the line, you're like, no shit, you were there. And then it's like, well, I don't know why I didn't know you. Well, because neither one of you really knew that you were going to be in it for the long haul.
well, that's something I was gonna say too. Is like that you mentioned that it is a bunch of clinics. When you go, I am guilty of. I didn't come to the first WCB thinking of it as a clinic. Now I do. I think like it's a competition within a clinic, but it's like I go to it more with a clinic mindset now than when I first went to that one. Like, do you notice that new guys coming, or do you think it goes each way?
Right.
What did you think it was like before you went to that first one? What did you think it was gonna be?
I thought it was just gonna be a competition. Like I've been to some of the local state ones where like we're like crazy, like
Going
you were
to
just
win.
there. You were not even just going to win. You were worried about your go, and like after your go was over, you were like, well, whatever. Like gonna go grab a burger or something. Like kind of done with it. But then after that, I was kind of like, I need to be paying attention to these other guys' goes. Like I need to be gathering knowledge while I'm here. Like.
I think that's where we've really tried to change the mindset. Is it used to be, it was all for me, and that's just normal. But then all of a sudden you realize that it's like some people that don't even win, that don't even get in the money, they have a little trick that they do, like. They might flip up a jar cock and put it on there and they might not have been able to finish the class with the same gusto, but that one part they really worked on. And if you're not there to witness it, you lose out. And so there's a lot of people, you know what I mean? It's like not everybody who's a rock star is a rock star. It's like there's a lot of people there that have a lot to offer. And you're like, man, that is so simple. Like some of the greatest things I've ever learned was someone that was like, yeah, doesn't everybody do this? And you're like, no, not everybody does do that.
It's like little personal accomplishments along the way, essentially.
Yeah.
You're saying.
Without a doubt.
No, I've noticed that huge. It's like you'll have some guy and he'll have some weird little tool that he brought or something. You're like, where did that come from?
Yeah. It's like that weird little guy might be Gene Leisure that makes a vice that is the vice from hell. And then all of a sudden you're like, everybody's like, well, we got to make a vice like, you know what I mean? But it's like Gene, like all of a sudden he stumbles onto the scene, and not saying that he didn't have that in the works the whole way, but it was like amazing for someone like Gene to make that vice. And then all of a sudden you're like, this is beyond brilliant. It's pretty crazy. You know what I mean?
Cat's meow.
Huge. That's so like during like the whole COVID deal and everything, like, and not even like COVID didn't keep me home. It's like I had a baby, and it's like that is where it played out in my life. And I'm not using that excuse. It was just a plan. But it's like I noticed it in my own tool making where I'm like, I'm getting stagnant because I'm not out and about seeing shit. Where it's like I guarantee Gene didn't come up with that vice by just sitting at home. That was he was watching something and it hit him all of a sudden. Like,
without a doubt.
Yeah.
It's a pretty crazy deal. So is that where, like, when you're putting the clinics or the contests together, is that where you're trying to gear them together the whole way? Is like, I know that's like the saying of the whole entire deal is education through competition, but is that still like, are you having to like remind judges of this ever at all or anything, or just let it naturally kind of happen, or is it just became its own beast?
Well, the difference between us, the WCB, and other things that have gone on is the fact that all of a sudden we got on this merry-go-round and we're having them every other month. And so all of a sudden, what happens with most contests is they forget what they were wanting to remember. By the time the next year comes around, they're like, so you reinvent. It's Groundhog Day every year that it comes around. You're like, oh yeah, that's where we got the chairs from. Oh yeah, that's where we got this from. And so when we're doing them every other month, it was all of a sudden it started to evolve, and it started to evolve quickly. Where we were like, well, so our judges taught us, and we taught our judges. Our judges, all of a sudden, we would see things with our judges where we're like, judging is not the same discipline as competing.
Yeah.
And that became aware to us. Is like judging is judging and competing is competing. And like somebody that worked at a Walmart could actually possess judging qualities that the greatest competitor on the face of the planet does not have an inkling of. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
A little bit. Like, yeah, I think I like, if you could dive into it a little deeper of like what you mean, because like I think you and Chris and like Bodie have such a gift of, not even gift of, just like, you guys have had the blessing of seeing so many judges and competitors. I think some key things of like, you can probably talk to a guy for just a little bit and you're like, you're never going to be a good judge. You're going to suck.
Well, there is those qualities. What do you think? I mean,
yeah, it's hard, I think, to ask people to judge, because it's,
everybody probably thinks they would be a good judge. I think that, like, a lot of people do. I think they're like ready for their opportunity to judge some people.
right, but there's so much to it, because like all the time you have to put into just the preparation for it. Like, so we ask you to judge, and I understand it's probably very hard to say no to Craig.
Yeah.
But
is this something like you guys collaborate between each other, like, oh, this is who we want to have maybe this time, or?
Oh yeah. At the beginning of every season, we all get together and we talk about who we think would work for what locations.
because you have to understand that, like, since we're definitely not politically correct. Like, it's not like everybody gets a participation trophy. So it's like our judges definitely could turn off. Like, we could lose 20 to 25 members a go from people being not like. And I'm not going to say that we've never had a bad judge. We just have judges that like sometimes they weren't tactful, and that's kind of the pot calling the kettle black. But I'm just saying, it's like some people just get their feelings hurt so easy, and so like there's so much tact, and there's people like, let's just use one example, Nigel Fennell. Nigel Fennell pull everybody off to the side, tell them what they did and what they didn't do right, and really use a lot of tact to explain to people. So when people leave, even though they got 17th place, somehow they're like, well, and that's the quality of a judge, is it's sort of like you want to try and explain to people why they're in 17th place. Does that make sense? It's like
but it's really hard to do.
Yeah.
With that many competitors on the line.
That many shoes that you're like, I'm sure, like, me looking at it, like, how do you decide some of these placings, you know, in between, like, especially when you start getting to the middle of the pack?
Yeah, because we're using words like judge. So, like, think about just a court judge. Like, what's worse, rape or death, murder or death, murder or rape? You know what I'm saying? Like how do you assess penalty? How do you? And it's sort of like that's what we're doing when we're getting to the middle of the pack. We're like, so is
What makes this
slightly
worse
not
than that
flat with a crooked nail hole. Like, where do I assess the penalty? It's like it becomes monotonous.
Yep. Yeah, that's kind of what like Patrick was getting at when we were talking to him. He's like, it's going to be a large task, and like it's going to be hard to tell people like why their 36 shoe is not in 35th place or something like that. And yeah, he was just kind of talking. It's going to be a big job, you know.
I think that's one of the perks about how we do the judging, how it's all laid out on a table and the judge is working and people can mill around and ask questions. Because like you guys aren't supposed to say
It's not behind closed doors.
This is my shoe and I want to know what's wrong with it, but they can say, well, why did you like this better than you like this?
Yeah, they have that option and to be able to find that out.
Right. Yeah. So I think that's helpful.
And one of the things that, like, you had Jake on, and I love Jake because, like, he gave me probably one of the keys to the WCB is like, I knew Jake before he went to England on the exchange program, and then whenever he came back, and he seemed like he wanted to compete, but he just couldn't get his motor running. And we went to Bossier City to a WCB, and Shane Carter was judging, and Jake was sitting there, and he's like, man, this makes it so easy, the judging in front of the competitors, because he goes, I never really understood why he goes, this is so neat. He goes, man, the shoes that are in front of me, I can just see why they're being placed in front of me. And he goes, at least my goal now, he goes, and from that moment on, the first time Jake just watched them judge him on the table, he just started to soar. And it was like, because that's something that we take for granted now, is it was sort of like that closed door judging and just kind of that frustration of not knowing where you were at. That's a blessing, because like having to be able to sit there and talk to the judge, and you can use couth, whatever you want to say, you know, like Chris has to run people off every once in a while off the table because they camp out in front of their shoe, and you're like, hey dude, you know, you it's not going to change it, you know.
No.
Wishing in the world's not going to change.
Feeling the pressure, like I'm standing in front of you, and like if you don't change that shoe, I swear I'm gonna stare you down even more.
Yeah. Or you get the people like pointing out crap in other shoes. They're like, oh, so what do you think about this one? What do you like? This one's kind of a little racked, huh?
Yeah, that's a dick move. That's a
big dick move.
Yeah. Yeah,
this asshole move.
Yeah. And there's guys that do it, and it's like, so you have to kind of go and police the table every once in a while and just kind of get those guys loosened up. But for the intent of what it was meant to be, it was meant to like ideally judging, and I think it does work this way, is the best shoes are at the top and they start to digress down the table. And, you know, as far as the categories that we put people in, or they put themselves in, and the way the shoes are placed, you have a couple phenoms that come along, but other than that, they kind of grow through the table. You know, it's just a progression that they do.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, and that's so I do think that's something like we take for granted, because I'm not that old in this trade of that. I've always been to competitions with open judging. Like I've only been to a couple that were closed judging. So like, is that how it used to be? Was it just way more like it was all closed judging?
Oh,
you just kind of,
because you have to sell a $22 piece of chicken at the banquet, and then people won't come to the banquet unless it's a surprise.
Yeah, true. Very true.
Right? You know what I mean? So it's
I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, that's why they do it that way.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
it's so
that
old
makes
movie
sense.
trick. You got to get them to the credits.
Yeah. Yeah.
Makes
I
complete
mean,
sense.
I hate to say it, but like I've been in The old system and the new system.
Oh, that I've never thought about that. Where did you guys get the category idea? Because was there any other competitions running that style where everybody was making the same shoes, but you were just kind of putting your own slots?
Well, I think it was a pain in the ass to have an apprentice, and I'm just saying, it was a pain in the ass to stop and make the shoes that the apprentice wanted to make. So that took time. And so like if like you've got 2.5 hours in the evening and you got somebody that you want to help, it would just make so much more sense to just help them by helping yourself. And helping yourself, you're helping them. So like if you're both making a side bone shoe, you're like, all right, Fred, this is how we do it. Instead of like, you know what I mean? And so just seems like, it just seems like the striker part and everything just made sense that if everybody's making the same shoes, then everybody's on the same page. If everybody's on the same page, the people get drug up pretty damn fast. Because like if you go to Chris Madrid's shop, he's like, hey, keep up or don't come back.
You're going to get left behind.
That's I never thought about that, and like, it does make a lot of sense. That then you can grab a striker there, and he already knows a system at least. Like, he's already got a pretty good idea.
Well, think about it.
I mean, you have limited amount of time, and you're shoeing horses. You're trying to spend time with your family. You're trying to allocate a few hours in the evening. And so if you got a kid that's coming over, it would be just way more beneficial to everybody if you didn't have to take that night out just to cut it out and make it for his plain stamped or his jar cock or his something
That's
different
exactly what
that
I was
he
just
was
about
doing.
to say. Yep.
No, that makes a ton of sense. And that it like, because it isn't very common also to have a like. You have to. Was that your way a little bit too of like making it appeasable to the lower category guys? Because it is a little scary of like their bigger shoes. It's a big fire. It's a different it's a.
Oh
it's
yeah,
scary.
yeah. I think that we had to recreate a whole pool of people because it's like we went to Coke because after 9/11. Propane is just not user friendly unless you want to be out in the sticks. Like if you want to be next to a river in some allocated piece of land that no one ever saw, then you can use propane.
Wow.
But if you want to
really
go
just as far as like liability, like they won't let
it's
you.
just the fire marshals. It's not combustionable. It's like it has to have air to create its own heat source. So like propane is like the biggest nightmare of fire marshals. So let's put 20 propane cylinders together. And they're like, I don't think so.
Yeah, no thanks. So
was that your first thought? Was like, I'll just bring a bunch of gas fires.
Oh, well, a lot of that, but so the goal was to do two things. Make better farriers and kick the shit out of the English.
So is that like, okay, like you guys were starting competition number 1. Were you going into it like competition number 1, we're starting a membership, like we're going all in, or you're like, we're just going to put on a contest? Like, did it just start as one contest?
We
had
the Roadrunner Classics, 2 of them, 2 years in a row before we ever started the WCB.
just so we could make sure we could do it.
To see if we kind of test around it a couple times to see if we could do it. And what we did is, like I say, I went over to England 10 times, and we just, things would change. And I'm not saying that a lot of that wasn't my fault, inexperience on my fault. Lots of things change. But then whenever I became president, I kind of looked at it from a different point of view. And I was like, well, this is what we need to change. And this is how we could change it. And so Chris and I made a proposal to the AFA saying these are things that we propose, like this is what we think we should do, so we could make a team that was competitive to go to England instead of just the first sign of insanity is doing the same thing over and over
just
again
gonna say.
and expecting different results. So it was like, we're never gonna win in England
just from one contest a year.
The way we do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is a trip too, to see the difference between like the crowd, like not even just the crowd, but like the team that gets chosen for like how AFA was doing it compared to the team that got chosen for the WCB. Like it was a way different trial, but it was coming from the same pool.
Yeah.
Like, so that was a pretty interesting thing. And it's something that I do think that is pretty interesting, that is both courses, right? So if somebody grew up in England and a guy, so let's like, I'm just going to grab two names out of it. It's like, you got a guy that's like Beanie, and you got a guy that's like Money, Bodie, or Tom, you know, from us. And it's like way different paths, right? But here they are they've come to the same age where they still, they ended up at almost the same level, right? Like regardless of those two paths. And I think that's something that like you guys created for us, to like compare it to like NASA and Elon. Elon doesn't have any rules.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that's one of the things that like WCB like makes it very quick, is you guys just decide.
Yeah. Well, like Tyson Clark said to us one day, he goes, I don't know if match play is heading in the right direction. And we were like, how? And he's like, well, it just seems like the shoes get made fast and they're shitty and you wreck tools and it's just not very productive. And we were like, so we immediately looked at how we could change it, and we basically added stuff like things that needed to be judged before it ever went to fit.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden that changed everything right then and there. And we were allowed to do that because we were like, you know, if match play isn't going the direction we want to go, we want to fix it. And we don't have to have a committee. We don't have to talk to a chairperson. We don't have to do shit. We just fix it.
You're your self-governing little community.
That's why we're not a 501c3, is because who wants to have a board and then some cheese dick come on here and say, well, I got enough votes, so we're going to hamstring it.
Exactly. No, that slows shit up. Like, you get one dude that he just decides he's going to be the thorn in everybody's ass instead of just going and doing his own damn thing. It's like, man, you're kind of ruining everybody's party. Like,
exactly.
And that's kind of what happens at some of the other associations, is that like, you know, you everybody just likes to play the blame game, and it just seems like that's one thing I think you guys preach all the way around, is there is no blame game. There's like it's gone, right?
Well, and we're like, when we first started the WCB, Bodie is a big part of it. He doesn't want to be a big part of it because he doesn't like any attention whatsoever. So it was kind of funny, you know, he did good at the convention, and the number one comment on Bodie was like, look at the expression on his face. And it's like, because Bodie's not having a good time when he's up in front of 500 people and they're taking his picture.
He just wants to do the work.
He's exactly like Chris. Like,
just wants to do the work. Just live his life.
But Bodie has he has a photographic memory. I know he does, and I've never been around too many people that do. But so his music tastes go really deep, and so like I think it was cool that like the WCB, we know three things that all horseshoers like. They like to bang on steel, they like good tunes, and they like to drink.
Right.
So like, why can't the good be good? We don't have to have like Uncle Fred come to Thanksgiving that always wrecks it. You know, don't invite that fucker.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's like, he might show up.
Yeah.
He's not going to come to 2.
Long.
He's not going to come around to 2 minutes.
He's getting thrown to the wolves at this point.
He's going to have to stay home and wash his feet.
That's the truth.
Man, that's like, it's kind of like one of my favorite things about it, is that like it does just like perpetuate its own, like, and there's little groups within it, it seems like, you know what I mean, but it's like, for the most part, everybody there is so for everybody and just helpful and nice. Like, it's you never got that weird time where you're like, I'm not going to that side of the trailer. There's that guy's over there. Like, I'm just gonna stay here.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's like it's that's what we want. It was supposed to be good about good. It was supposed to be like and you know, it got really, really big there for a while and got really, really busy, and it got like to be this 800-pound gorilla that we couldn't quite control. But I think that it all came back around, and I think we're right where we want to be.
Well, for those that don't know, how many years have you guys been doing this now?
You're the one with all the numbers, honey.
Well, we're just finishing our 16th season, so that would mean we started in
2006.
2006, but we did the 2 Road Owner Classics like the 2 years previous to that.
It's about 04 then,
Yeah.
essentially. Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
What do you
That's
guys
really
think
cool.
has been the toughest thing trying to do this whole journey?
What would you say? I would say that not getting an invite to England, probably it's made us change our game plan, a business plan, because part of our business plan, which wasn't very smart on our part, was that we thought that we would eventually get an invite to England, and so we've had to change it up. But like, if we're not going to get an invite to England, that's all right. It's sort of like you don't have to find a. When Augusta wouldn't let black golfers play, it's a sympathetic ear wasn't just black golfers. It a lot of other people didn't like the fact that black golfers couldn't go. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So essentially, basically, you just create your own contest that brings everybody else there, and then you guys can still compete. Like
Is that when you guys started creating Classic?
Yeah. Oh, exactly. It was sort of like, it was like, hey, and not only do you not just get a ceramic plate, but you could get 10 grand too.
Not just a ribbon.
and the best part is other countries get to win too.
Yeah. It's not the same.
It's
top
not
3
biased
every time.
Yeah. Like there'll be some other countries that win besides like the UK.
Yeah, well, it was like it's
UK.
that was the cool thing about it, is like they weren't coming in with their chest too pumped out. Like,
No, like
they knew it was real.
It was about shoeing. It's about shoeing. It was good, and it's like it was the Classic, and we've got that back again because we've got a good core of people, and we got the exact same format, and we're at a really cool place, and I think we're at a time where we could reproduce it, and I think that it's going to be good.
Yeah, I like, it's the ebb and flows of everything, right? And it's like, of you guys started doing these like Classic was a lot going. When I went, I was like, not that I'm a great horseshoer now, but I was a worse horseshoer then. And it was just like, I was so new to competing. I'd only been to like one WCB, and all of a sudden I showed a Classic and it blew my mind. Like, it was just, it was a whole bunch going on. But then, like, now you go to that team event now, and it's like, it's still like the competition's still there, you know, and it's still hard, but it's like, it's fed to you in such a format that is like, I hate to say it, but to me it was like the best kept secret. Like, there was like just enough teams there to make it competitive and just enough guys, but it was like so much clinicking going on.
Oh.
Well, but I think Riley, like Chris alluded to it in your guys' last deal, is it's like you have this artistic, like, you understand moving metal, you understand discipline, you understand heritage, you understand history, you understand all those things, and horseshoeing just doesn't come to you until it comes to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like, so I think that you exploded because you can do so much with steel, and it's so fun to watch. First of all, it's fun to watch. It's fun to see the stuff that you produce. But just like you said, well, I'm a lot further now, and it's like, we all are a lot further, and it's great to see that. I'm glad that you didn't get disenchanted with horseshoeing. You know what I mean? I'm glad that you just didn't peel off to the artistic side and just do the tongs and the axes, because I think that you could do that any time, but I'm just glad because I think that you are an add to the horseshoeing community.
Well, I appreciate it. I wasn't trying to make that about me, but I was trying to like, it was like, I just saying like, to like, I think like right now where our whole trade is like that you guys' team events that are going on was like such a great opportunity for guys to like, even guys like Troy Wood, of like Troy got his foot into the team events now, and of like, he got a pretty good warm up to, it's like, watch out, you know what I mean? It's like the kid's going places.
It's like him and our man Dylan Crane. You know, Dylan and Troy are those kind of kids that come along and they wreck a lot of dreams, because you're like, oh yeah, kid, you'll do good someday, and then all of a sudden, like he's going to be now on the WCB team.
Yeah.
And Dylan was the same way. It was sort of like, all right, when you get into category 3, and he's like, fuck category 3, we're going straight. We're going straight there to the team. And it's like, and people who have built up for that, it fucking messes them up.
I tell you, it pissed me off all year. Dylan whipped my ass every contest. That year, he beat me every time.
And they're both left-handers.
It's kind of weird.
Pissed me off.
I mean, because you don't even notice. Like most of the time, left-handers, you're like,
that's true.
Yeah, you could do good, you know. But that dude's a left-hander, and you don't even notice until someone says, he's left-handed, and then all of a sudden, because those both are they got a good swing, and they don't look awkward whatsoever. They just
they got a good swing till they don't. Like, it's about every other practice. Troy's wearing a dinger, and like the whole like my side of the anvil has dents in my horn now.
Exactly.
It's pretty good.
That's the truth.
But man, when that thing connects, it connects. Like, it's good stuff. But it has to be like, I'm sure it's a shot in the arm for you guys, of guys like Dylan and Troy coming along, of like, it's a whole nother generation.
Well, because you're trying to build a culture. Like, whether people would like to, like, I like to give them a hard time, and they probably get pissed at me, but the UK built a culture. The UK built a culture, and people like Derek Gardner and Spud, Beanie, and Gary Darlow and Grant Moon and Billy Carruthers, all those guys, Darren Bazin, they built this culture of excellence. And now we've built a culture, and we've built a culture, and we like it's to see, because whether you like to see them as an upstart or whatever, Troy and Dylan are that first generations of the culture of winning.
It's a good way of putting it. Yeah, I haven't really thought about it that way. They are, like, with anything, it takes a few generations. If you're going to breed good dogs, good horses, it's not going to happen in the second go around. Like,
because you got Gene Leisure and Jake, and you got Robert Jukes, all those guys that they're laying a footprint, but then all of a sudden, like, you sit there and you say, well, I wish I'd have had that information. Well, we have, all of a sudden we see guys that can put the work in, that have the aptitude, and all of a sudden they get that gift of all that information that's been out there. And then you got freakazoids like Dylan and Troy that are like, they can't rent a car, but they can make a pair of tongs like nobody's fucking doing.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty spot on. But it's like, there's still all these people out there for some dumb fucking reason. It's like, that want to fight it. That like, here's this clear path, right? People are like, listen, this path got cleared pretty far by this guy. You just got to get to that point, and then you can start clearing a little further. And people are like, but there might be a log across it still, so it's still kind of hard, you know. And they just don't take it. Where it's like, no matter what, to get to where Troy's at, or Dylan, like, that's a lot of work still. even though the information's there. Where it's a lot easier to just like go apprentice for some guy and like, well, I'm just gonna glue shoes on. Like, I'm not trying to like call out glue on shoe shit, but it's like it's a lot easier than building heart bars and tongs. Like, that's for damn sure.
Well, I personally think that anybody that's going to invest the time to learn to forge or learn to do anything, and what we have in horseshoeing the gift of gab. And so because you can, I think that all right, so we got Levi. Levi could be running 2 trucks, talking mad shit and running a huge business because he can talk mad shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, but like his brother and the WCB community knows that he's gotta go straight through it. He can't go around it. And I think that's just what it is a lot of people think they can go around it, and go ahead and go around it. But I don't think you get near the reward as if you go straight through it.
Yeah, I don't think you like, no matter what, you just miss it.
You miss it.
Yeah, there's never like, you never get there and you're like, wow, this is great. You're like, no, you still missing that element. Like, it's not in there.
Yeah.
No, it definitely is. So is that kind of like you guys kind of said in the beginning of, you get to hear things like, you hear people talking that have came here, and that kind of gives you another drive. Is that deep? Like, is that your guys' driving force still of just going on every year? Because man, you guys are gonna keep closing up to like 20 years here before too long.
What do you think it is?
I think so, because I think we get a little tired sometimes, and we wonder if we're doing the right thing, and we wonder if we've worn it out, And
I don't think so.
But then we'll hear somebody's story about what it means to them or what they gained from it, and then we kind of look at each other and say, well, there's no way we can ever stop this. Like, we're helping people along the way, and that's
what keeps you going.
Powerful tool.
And is it like, it sucks to hear you thinks you like that you guys are wearing it out sometimes, you know what I mean? Like, is it just of like a lack of attendance sometimes that gets you there, or just like the lack of buzz while people are there or something?
I think lack of communication. I think that really, to be honest, the Forging Brains is really lifted me up a bunch, because like to be honest with you, Andrew Nielsen and I have never talked about some of the stuff that he thought was really important to him. And so then when you hear it, you're like, because we are a church. No matter how you want to say it, we are a church. Mm-hmm. And I don't think we're a weird church. I just think we're a church of steel and horses' feet. And we're this church, and what else are we going to do? What else would we do at this point? What would we do?
Sit
we
around
ask ourselves that all
we
the time.
we would more than likely be loners. Like, I hate to break it, like more than like I would, without finding this crowd of like, I wouldn't have 3/4 of the friends that I have, and of like, I probably wouldn't be making great life choices. So like, that's what I love about you saying that as a church, is that I'm sure a lot of people, like me saying that, like when I first went to that, I thought this was going to be about a horseshoeing competition. And now I have learned so much of how I should probably push my business, my finances, making life choices, what's normal in a daily life, and like what's normal. Like, man, just going to people's houses for a practice, and you're like, oh, this is how these guys have breakfast. And this is what their family does for dinner. Right. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, maybe like that sounds, maybe we'll do that at our family. Like, that was kind of cool. Like, like, and I know that like, especially like Troy's still pretty new to it, but it's like, and I've had a good chance of like being around Troy a lot, but it's like, I've watched Troy grow up so much in this little bit, but it like, especially Dylan. Like, Dylan came around at like, what, a 16-year-old, I think, the first time I saw him at a WCB, and is like, now he's a full-grown man,
Yeah.
That doesn't happen by just horseshoeing.
Well, and that's the thing, is like, Andrew Wells asked me this question, and I believe it's sort of like, the NBA, the Major League Baseball, hockey, everybody has mentor programs, because when you give an 18-year-old kid $20 million, bad shit happens.
Yeah, for sure.
Big time.
And so it's sort of like when you get, there's people out there that get a little bit of success, and then they basically they turn everybody off. And so it's like the WCB is a lot about acting like a human being and being humble, and you don't need to toot your own horn. And when you get in a relationship, Chris and I have, not that we're marriage counselors, but like, hey, you pull a girl off to the side or a guy off to the side and say, look, these guys just wanna shoe horses and get better. So like, there shouldn't be a competition between you and your relationship, because there's like all kinds of weird shit we deal with. We deal with a lot of weird shit.
No, I can only imagine.
It's like Chris tells girls all the time, because it's like, it's that old story of like, you know, these guys aren't going to the pool hall and trying to pick up strange women. These guys are going to people's shops and trying to figure out how to make a heel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not only that, is once they learn how to make a heel, they'll probably have better businesses. And once they learn how to trim better, they'll have better businesses. So it's like, you're trying to teach young people like Dylan's age, like, hey, these are just normal problems that you're going to have. You know what I mean? And it's like, we do all kinds of stuff, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, no, I think like, man, that was Chad Chance's whole talk a couple of years ago at the Winter Clinic, was like, what you went back to again, is like communication with everybody around you and making them understand your goals and where things are going in life is like, that was huge for me. Of like, that's still one of my favorite things. Like you were saying, is like, you go to WCB and you got to own up to it, because no one's just giving you a participation award or anything like, you know what I mean? It's like, you show up and Craig's going to holler out to me. It's like, you can make an axe. Let's see if you can trim a frog today. It's like, let's see where we're going to go.
It's true. It's true. And it's
it's super true.
It was fun to see Gavin. You know, Gavin goes over and he got his eyes wide open when he went over on the Cat 2 team. Like, we ain't in Kansas anymore, Toto, when you went over there, huh?
No, we weren't. No, that was a lot of fun.
Oh my! They don't close the bars here at all? Like, they just stay open until you quit going? Huh. Good thing I don't live
place.
here.
Yeah, I definitely made some poor decisions on that trip, but
Oh man, did you really? I never heard any of this.
I may have
Gavin
had a
would
few.
find him a posse and hang out all night long.
Yeah, I may have had a few many to drink as soon as we got back to town.
You couldn't even understand any of the people you're hanging out with, probably. Like, were they like foreign people, or the other team just leave you, probably?
I don't know, just cooped up in Andy's shop there for a week or whatever, and all of a sudden you're just brought back to civilization. You just run free.
Why not? I guess.
Who's the big guy? Well, you were on the team with the big
Clint
stout guy. What was
Woods.
his name? Clint Woods.
The bear, snorer.
Yeah. It was funny because they come to Andy's shop, and Clint's like, "Hey, we got a problem." And I was like, "What?" And he goes, "Well, I fell down the stairs and I ran my head through the drywall." And he goes, I don't know what to do. I was like, "Well, we'll tell Andy. We'll figure out what." But Andrew, he was like, I came down the stairs and I stumbled and my head went right through the drywall. I was like, holy! I said, "Are you all right?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine." I felt terrible. It was funny though.
That's amazing.
He snored so loud. I had to share the room with him, and he snored so bad. I went downstairs onto the couch, and I still couldn't sleep because I could hear him snoring from the room upstairs. It was that bad.
No,
So I wonder what he was running downstairs for. Did he miss me?
Get his sleep apnea machine or something. I don't know.
Oh my God.
Who else was on that team with you, Gavin?
Adam Farr and Jack Craddock.
That's right.
Right,
That's
yeah.
right.
Yep. And that was the year when you and Bodie were on it together with
Yeah.
Tim
Yeah, that was a
McPhee.
good run, wasn't it? That was fun.
Yeah, I'll never forget the time when when we'd be in the van and he'd always be making fun of me like Ricky Bobby, like, don't forget your Mountain Dew. Stuff like that. He just keep going on and on. Like, that was the first time I ever was around Tim, and it was just so funny.
Well, between Tim and me, if you had any feelings, we were going to find them.
I just recognized that from the beginning. I was just going to let him have it. And it seems to be, after talking to Andrew Wells the other day, Tim let Andrew have that as well when he was like, you need an ambulance? Fuck him. Just let him bleed out.
Holy cow.
Oh, that was funny.
That was like one of the a pretty cool thing was the whole Cat 2 team. We're getting to go over there. And it's
the Cat 2 team was way more successful because I think it's the first time that you realize that like at least 1 out of 4 men snore really bad. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like a team it's like it's one thing to choose a team, but it's another thing to be on a team where you got appointed to it because of your winnings.
Yep.
No, I think that's a huge thing. Was that your whole goal of it? Was like put them on a team they aren't going to and like get them out of Dodge? Like
yeah. Well, just if you, it kind of cuts the wheat from the chaff because if you want to be on a team, there's no better way because that's a huge introduction to, boom, this is a team. It's as much or more than a family team, like a family, and it's just like with characters that you don't know, but you have the common goal of you both like shoeing, and hopefully it's not just a devastating relationship, but for the most part, not everybody's the same. You know what I mean? It's like, and so you instead of trying to change everybody, you're trying to utilize that person for what they bring to the table. You know, and a lot of people like Chris said, he plays sports, but a lot of people don't come from like where they've been involved in a team.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you guys decipher? So each year you may have somebody new on the team. Who comes up with who's going to be on what foot or who's going to be making what shoe? Like, do you guys just tell them like, make these shoes and we'll see which one makes one better, and then that's where you're going, or you just play to what their strengths are? Like you figure out those strengths throughout the year, and just try to accumulate those and point them out.
Being like, so the one thing that we bring to the table as far as the WCB is we like. I don't think anybody has watched as many contests as Bodie, Chris, and myself.
Yeah.
Like, we've watched a bunch, like in the hundreds.
Yeah.
We've watched them. And so, horseshoeing, like, regardless of what people think on Facebook, horseshoeing is extremely hard.
Mm-hmm.
One thing is, like, and I'll just say it, is, like, if you put a mirror up on your face, and you try the left side of your face looks completely different than the right side of your face.
Yeah.
And so the left side of a horse gets shod completely different than the right side. And so when I'm circling back to what you said, Gavin, but when people get on a foot, it's like nice to have a left-hander because a left-hander does things completely opposite as a right-hander. So like if you have a left-hander on your team, you got an ace in the hole. And then it's just like Robert Jukes. He kind of got bumped around after he owns a left foot.
Yeah.
Like he owns it. He like, and Tom Peterson owns the right foot.
They're just great at it.
And I mean, like, because just the way their eye sees it and the way it comes out sweet, they own that. And then Chris Madrid on the back. That's where you probably want one of your sergeants is on the back because they're kind of directing things and seeing how the flow of things go. And back feet are a little bit more predictable than front feet.
Yeah.
And so, but what you do is you really want to find the hole, and you want to find a place where people sit. But like I say, Robert kind of like, so then you have Chad gets on the team, and Chad, he wants to be on the left front because he's had the hip replaced, and he just needs to be there for the sake of the team.
Yeah.
And so Robert does good to get on the right, but it's still not Robert's hole. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, and then when you have people who don't compete, they're listening to what we're talking about right now. What's weird is they don't even take that into consideration, that they're fucking feet up, that they don't know how to shoe every day, and they'll deny it. Everybody listening to this podcast well, Craig's a fucking obnoxious asshole who thinks that I can't switch from left foot to right foot, from front foot to back foot. And I'm telling you, from watching hundreds of contests,
You can see the difference.
you can see a huge difference.
Oh, you can see the difference on Facebook. A guy will post a picture of the whole horsey shoes, and you're like, God damn, you shot one of them.
Yeah. You shot the shit out of that right front, man.
Yeah, like all the rest just look like a variation of that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
No, I like it's something I've admired about you is like you serve up humble pie very well. Of like, I'm not near as good as you. It's like I come at people a little aggressive sometimes. It's like you still keep the joke in it. Like, how do you like, or is that just how your brain goes?
Well, I'd like to take some of the credit, but Chris is really, like, Chris does the stats. So we have 100 contests or so, but Chris has the stats.
Yeah.
She's put it all together. Like, between Chris, Bodie, and Rachel, they've put together an astronomical amount of information that's pretty remarkable. Like Chris came up to me one day a few years ago and said, judges score feet they like way higher than feet they don't like.
Oh.
Does that sound weird? Not really.
No. So
No,
you can
it's
see
hard
this.
not to.
So Chris, you can see this just through the numbers on the sheets, basically, like that they are kind of
That's crazy.
judging one side or one foot more than the other because they don't necessarily are keen to the other one.
Right.
Because I don't think, like, let me say this. Out of all the judges that we had and have had, I don't think not one of them has been untrue or a liar or deceptive. I think every judge we've had judged exactly the way that they saw it.
Oh,
Yeah, they're still human. They still have their attributes that
Yeah.
they like. Just like Robert, he's great on the left front. He may see that one better than the rest of them, essentially.
It's just tendencies.
It's tendencies in what they like to do. And so it's like, so we've learned a lot about it. And so, like, Chris and I, we have a really good system for judges when they come. It's sort of like, Chris made this awesome deal. Like, because what we saw is a lack of communication between us and the judges and making them prepared so that they could judge better. So Chris made this really cool diagram with a horse on it. And so then she has it to where they have the scores on the corner of the horse. And so, like, if a judge is judging, let's just say Brian Osborne at Edgewood, what we would do is after the first go, Chris came up with a system where it was, she would say in the second go, she would have the numbers already done, and she'd say, all right, the Palomino on the number 8 horse was what the left front was what you thought was the job of the day. And if he looks at you like, oh my God, I didn't like that job, then we got a problem. But because what you want to do is you want to keep your judges on track to where they're like, they give the next go around a fair coat of paint, because if they'll be judging compared to the Palomino on the left front, because if that's the job and he thought that was good, then you're subconsciously putting that in front of them saying, well, That's the mark on the wall right now.
Yeah, they don't get lost in the first 10
Bingo.
amongst the rest of the 40 or 30, I guess.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And we're not saying that our judges, they do really good, but what we've tried to do is try to help them. Like we're not trying to
play favorites,
to slant the outcome. I don't give a fuck about the outcome. What we're trying to do is make sure that we give them all the tools that they need so that they can have a clean go. Because at the end of the day, if they make the right decision, everybody will see it and everybody's happy and everybody looks good.
Yeah. So in a way, you basically, before they judge, do you guys take them to get like, and just kind of coach them up and like, this is kind of the way we should do it? Or
no, I never, because you get them on the defense. I don't think you ever want to tell a judge, oh, this is how we do it. What you want to do is you want to say, this is what we've seen and this is what we want to do to help you with,
what's about to happen.
Yeah.
And some people say, that's a cool chart, but we don't need it. Like I've got it, or my steward will keep
help
track
me out.
of things for me.
Yeah.
Really?
But some people just find it super helpful.
So you guys just had the contest at Madison this year with 3 judges. How was that doing, like, say, like the live shoeing, like getting 3 different judges' opinions? Was that easy for them to come to the conclusion on the winner, or? But I mean, those 3 are pretty good friends as well, so I imagine they're not going to banter too much.
Oh, the number one question I always ask people after the live shoeing, I ask the judges, could you judge it? And they said, yeah, we could judge it. And as soon as the judges say, no, it was so hard I couldn't judge it, we'll cut time down. But what we did is we added 10 minutes. So it's 70 minutes. The live shoeing class is 70 minutes. And that really allows a lot of good shoeing to go on. Because what I saw at Calgary a few years back, it was they cut the times down so much that there was lots of carnage.
Yeah.
And basically, we want people to seek us out to get their horses shod, not to be like, don't take your horses there because there's shortcuts being made.
Well, that and too, and we're in a world of social media, and pictures get taken at the event of the feet that have been shod. And so it's like, if these guys are all posting shod pictures of shitty shoe jobs, everyone's like, well, that they aren't really doing any good shoeing there. But it's like, if it's a bunch of spanky jobs of like,
yeah,
it shows what's happening.
Like we post every Sunday the foot of like have a great Sunday picture, right? And it's always of a foot. A lot of those goes are done in the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like it's to have something go in the time and people say that looks really good. Those were done in the time. That's fun.
Yeah, I usually recognize like those pictures from after when like Chris has taken them from a contest. I'll go through them and look at them, and then like I'll recognize it. It could have been from like 2 years ago or something like that. From the contest.
No, it's one of my favorite parts is when the guy who knows it's his shoe job, like Carl, will reshare it. And you're like, that was obviously Carl's shoe job.
Oh yeah. And that's kind of the fun thing about being totally open with our scoring and our judging is when we screw up, someone sees it right away. You know what I mean? Like they're like, that's not how it went down, and we get it fixed. And that's the whole idea, the open judging and the open scoring is that if you post that shit, they're like, there's no way because those guys, when you open the tags, they have the results before Chris can put them in the computer most of the time.
Yeah, I could see that. Some of them are pretty dang good at calculating, keeping knowing where they're at and everything.
And if we transcribe a number or something like that, they catch it and we fix it because that's the whole idea. Yep. That's the whole goal.
Yeah, no, it keeps the whole thing super freaking honest. Like it's hard not to be when everything's out in the open, and like that's it before the shoes even go on the tape. Like you're walking around watching everybody's go. You're like, he didn't have a good shoe here. Like, and that's where it's like these are the couple guys that you needed to get by, and you're like, they didn't get it done. You're like, kind of where you're gonna start stacking up a little bit on it.
Exactly.
And so, like, is there anything right now where you see the way things are going that you have a big plan of, like, that you could think you could make better? Because, like, it's probably getting to the point where you're like, things are getting pretty fine tuned, I would imagine.
What do
Well,
you?
it's funny because every time we do a competition, we learn something that we can do better for the next one. And it never fails. There's always lessons.
Really?
Yes.
Because I would totally think that you guys would get down with them and be like, there might be like one or two little things, but I wouldn't think that it would be. But you guys are pretty good self-critiquers, so what
And it
is it usually in the same category, or is it something that you never even saw coming?
Oh, you never know where it's going to come from. It's very random.
like Bodie and Rachel said that it was a nasty winter morning, and they spent one day. They said they never left the house, and they both are number nerds, and they revamped a scoring setup with the Excel spreadsheet, and saved the whole process. Like, it used to be like we'd be out in that trailer messing with things until midnight sometimes, and it's like just doing the spreadsheets and getting those fixed up is like it streamlined it to where we can actually eat dinner and stuff.
Yeah, they cut out just a huge step from it. It was just brilliant.
That's crazy. Like it probably took of like someone from the outside, you know what I mean? Of like just outside thought of all of a sudden, of like looking at something like, oh, hey, it's right
Oh,
here in
yeah.
front of us.
Right.
Like, but as far as like the judging goes, do you think that's like, seems pretty streamlined up now with the WCB? Of like, it's pretty easy for a judge to step in there
Yeah, and
and go
I
with.
think that the judging, I think people have a lot of respect for him now. I think people thought that they could do some banter and some posturing and stuff like that, but I don't think that goes on near as much now as it did, because we didn't know what to expect. Like, we pretty much are doing stuff without a policy manual. We don't know what's going on, so we've just kind of just been regurgitating it and trying to go on with it.
No, it's turning out pretty dang good. I would say, like, it keeps on going, right? Like, so that's
Yeah.
probably the biggest thing. It's like, so what is your guys' goals with WCB from here?
Well, we're going to do the World Championships at Spruce Meadows again, and
Mm-hmm.
and they're excited, they're motivated, and they want to have a second to none event. So they're going to put up 100 grand in prize money.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and
That's
so
pretty
it's
damn
like,
good.
and we
That's
got two.
amazing,
We
isn't
got
it?
Austin and Spud are going to judge, and we've
Oh,
got
nice.
a lot of classes with one on the foot. So it's going to be a lot of shoeing, and like, they're excited, we're excited, and it's like, I think that the world, like, a lot of people have been in holding pattern, and it's sort of like, it's like, I would love to see Beanie do it again, because I think that he can. I think he's definitely in shape. He physically
Mm-hmm.
can, and I think that there's lots of people like what you've seen on the WCB scene, and we just recently went to England and Scotland, and there's a lot of young kids over there that they're game for it. So I think that the World Championship's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Yeah, that's great. I didn't know that it was 100 grand.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a lot of money. That's for first place, or is you guys?
No,
Is it a?
no, it's going to be like 50 grand guaranteed for first place. And then we're like, one of the big knocks on Calgary was if you won, you did good, but everybody else didn't. And so I think it will be good to spread the wealth a little bit and
Yeah.
like pay good to the second place. And if you
Yeah.
won a class, to pay good,
Yeah.
it would be good to pay and get a lot of countries involved.
Yeah. 'Cause, like,
Because would that be about the only thing there is right now that is a big international that anybody can go to?
Yeah.
and win money at essentially.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everybody's heard me bitch and piss and moan about the international over in Stoneleigh, but the bottom line is we're not just like the WCB's not everybody thinks it's this or that, but we're a culture, we're a church, whatever, and we just wanted a seat at the table, and we're not trying to get around anybody, and they're not full. So basically,
That's the weird
why?
thing.
Yeah, like why not? And they're like, well, because we don't want to have this or that, and it's like, well, why think about what you don't want instead of thinking about what you do want, which is having tons of people go, having a culture of like the WCB. One of the years whenever I was on the team, the AFT, Austin Eanes was on the exchange program. And there was so many Texans, there was so many people over there. There was so many people that went to the international that made it a lot of fun because it was going forward. And when you start telling people, well, we don't want this and we don't want that, it just stymies it. And
makes it unenjoyable.
Yeah, it's just not a culture of because we're not going thinking that we're going to win. We're going because we want to do recon. Everybody wants to see what Paul Robinson is doing. Everybody wants to see what Dower Doctor's doing. All those guys, everybody wants to see what they're doing. And
trying to raise the bar.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, and on top of that, there's guys out there you don't even know of. There's like some French dude shows up and just lays a whip into everybody. You're like,
and they
where did this come from?
There's these magical animals that can kick your ass day in and day out that no one knows who their names are. And that's
something I was going to ask. I was thinking about this. Does Russia have a horseshoeing team?
That is a good question.
That is a good question.
I've never seen Russia like mentioned anywhere.
Putin be like, no, you guys can't go.
Like, I don't even think I know a Russian horseshoer.
Well, I met a guy and his wife from Slovenia, and I think that they are. I think there is a Russian, but I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't come, but
yeah, that's an interesting question.
Them in Korea,
does China
have
their
own competition?
Because there's got to be horses in all those countries that when there's wealth and opulence, there's horses.
I've seen a picture of Putin riding a horse. You know he's got a.
Oh yeah.
He ain't shooting his own damn horse.
I've also seen a picture of Putin riding a bald eagle. So
exactly.
They're big eagles over there, bro. I didn't mean to throw that off course. I was just thinking the other day. I was like, "Where's Russia in all this? You know they'd want to come beat us. Like they always want to beat us. Like why are they here?"
And Russia definitely has had their fair share of capitalism to where they've got horses and stuff. So I would think that they've got horseshoers and stuff over there that would want to lay the smack down on people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, back on the course, I guess. Didn't Stoneleigh, they just made everything bigger this year, right? So there's not even really the whole excuse that there isn't a venue anymore.
Well,
because I saw like they made it like quite a bit bigger, and so it's like it doesn't make a lot of sense to me of why they wouldn't want.
They got the Farrier Focus and stuff like that, so I think it's a good deal. I think it's going to grow and do good.
Well, I think it is, but it's like I think there's one thing that we all as horseshoers, and it's like this is what I think like WCB does really good about is you are aiming at companies and people that aren't horseshoers. When you go to convention, everybody walking around in convention watching is horseshoers. That's why the only reason they're there. But like when you get a WCB at the Midwest Horse Fair, you get a ton of people watching that aren't horseshoers. And if we want our trade to be known as much as a pro timber sports from Still or some of these other guys, you know, it's like we have to get it out there a little bit. So it's like it's something that it doesn't make sense for me from a lot of the associations of what they're doing.
I think we want to be in front of the public eye, no doubt.
Is that still like is that a push for you guys of like trying to figure out how to get more into the public eye?
Oh yeah. Well, we were well on our way, and then you know COVID came along, and we never ever stopped through COVID. Like a lot of people are like, oh yeah, when we shut down, we never shut down. We never shut down at COVID. We went into some backyards and stuff, but we never shut down. Like publicly. When we had the contest here at the house, Levi went to downtown to the city, municipal buildings and asked them, because you could have a BLM protest, but you couldn't have a gathering. So Levi said, well, we're just going to have a BLM protest. And they're like, all right, that's no big deal. So it was like Blacksmiths Lives Matter. That's what we said we did. And
Yeah.
the police came by a bunch, but they never stopped us or anything.
No, I went to that contest, and it was just like your backyard was an oasis of normal.
Yeah.
Completely.
It was an oasis of normal, because I think all horseshoers are pretty, and we were like, is this shit really happening?
Yeah. Completely. It was like all of a sudden everybody was dirty again, like hanging around.
Yeah.
Like,
and you have a buffet, eating it from a buffet. And
yeah,
shit, so
exactly.
like
whose water bottle is this? I don't know, man. I'm thirsty. It's close enough. Like,
and we didn't kill anybody, but we when we would post pictures of events, people would be like, how come no one's wearing any masks? And we're like, fuck
Common
off.
sense.
yeah. No, it is. You guys kept pushing ahead, and it's like it would have been pretty easy though to lay down and just like, well, this is it, boys. Was a good run, But it's like, how scary has it been? Of like so many times you guys have built up bigger. You know what I mean? Of like, that has to be a pretty scary ordeal each time.
What were you gonna say?
I don't know. Oh, I think when we had that first one after COVID hit here at the house, it became very apparent that we all needed that backyard of normalcy.
Oh yeah.
So it was super important then.
People just tired of being locked up and just need to get out.
Yes.
And see something normal again.
Yes.
Because it was so polarizing. Everybody would have such a good time at the contest, and then everybody would mess around and like be telling horror stories of the airport.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you had like polar opposites of like us sitting there watching a small kid eat a meatball that the dog just licked to, you go to the airport and people have they have their hand sanitizers that they're spraying down their armrests and their
leaving a trail behind them, essentially.
Yeah. I hate to admit it. Besides the mask deal at the airport, I loved the airport during COVID. You never got bumped into. It was just like free walking everywhere you go. There was no line. There was only like 4 people on your plane. Like, flights were cheap. It was amazing. If we could go back to that, just no mask, I'd love it.
But those are called manners, Riley. It was like everybody kind of got some manners whenever it was sort of like no one invaded your personal space during COVID.
Yeah.
It was amazing how fast they went away, though, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Immediately forgotten.
Oh, man.
So, like, over the years, just to kind of, like, get off topic, I guess, is, like, as you guys have put on this number of contests, like, what has been, like, the toughest one as far as, like, logistics go? Like, what was, like, the toughest location you guys had ever been to? Or, maybe something had gone wrong while you were there, like a storm came by, or... I mean, actually, you guys have been to a lot of places where a lot of storms have blown through.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know why that is. What would you say would be?
I think the year we were in Fort Worth and we had the ice storm was...
Oh, I've heard about that one a lot.
Yeah, it was like bad news on top of bad news. Like, when we set up the trailer... It was beautiful weather. It was like 60 degrees. It was beautiful. We were like, there's no way nothing bad could happen. And
it's Texas.
When we showed up the next morning, there was 6 inches of ice. The tent was totally ripped down. The doors were sagging.
Oh.
It was just a giant shit show, wasn't it?
Giant shit show.
It was so cold that Steven judged in the center of the trailer with a table up there and just...
Oh, next to the forges.
Yeah, up there in the forges. It was just... The only one that was left in the stockyards was a janitor that took care of the bathrooms, and he didn't even stay. He left us a key for the bathroom.
Wow. Like, I don't care what happens to this bathroom, dude. I'm out of here.
But you had to walk across this parking lot, like forever across this ice.
Just hopefully not fall.
Yeah. And it was the one where Andrew Wells and Adam Tallman, they got in a fight down in one of the basements, and
I've heard about this.
it was
Yes.
With each other?
No,
No.
they went into the wrong place after they were celebrating their wins from the contest.
Yeah, I thought it was like the Cadillac bar or something down there. Or
Yeah.
something.
Man.
They went down there. It was like it just kept on. It never got better. It was like and everybody was real troopers. Like we got, I'll bet you 5 to 6 tons of ice off the tarps, and we got everything set back
Wow.
up again. Like everybody pitched in. Everybody's like, by God, we're gonna do it. And I was like, let's just burn the fucker down and go.
I just want to go
I don't
home.
care.
And so then obviously they were like, well, we can't bring you horses. And we're like, no shit. Huh? And it was the only dead shoeing we had. We've had live shoeing, everything we had, but we had dead shoeing. And
And everybody made the shoeing.
yeah, everybody made the shoeing, and everybody.
How did you have that many dead feet?
Well, we just had one, and so they looked at a foot. We tried to pick the most awful foot we had, and then and Steven did good. Like, Steven was a trooper because, holy cow, it was just terrible conditions, and he was like, I gained a lot of respect for him. It was just an awful setup, and everybody did good, and then now it's exactly like you said, Riley. People see that shirt and they're like, you were at that shit show of the ice storm, And it was like, it is a connection between people because they see that shirt and they're like, oh, you were at the ice storm.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm
a
sure
terrible
after
deal.
that, it's like things can go probably pretty wrong at one of your more normal contests, and you're like, "This is no big deal. Like, this is gonna be all right."
Yeah, it's weird. Doing outside venues you're definitely at the mercy of Mother Nature.
So do you guys have a favorite location as far as like maybe like Sheridan, or is there like a favorite location you guys really look forward to?
What would you say?
When we were going to Sheridan, that was my favorite, hands down.
Just
But
because
no.
of like the location and the scenery and the people.
Oh, yeah,
and
just being in the West and
Yeah.
the
yeah,
sky.
it was
and
beautiful.
It's a beautiful drive from our place to there.
And it might as
cool
well
town.
been the face of the moon for everybody back east.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like almost hitting 27 deer on the way there, and almost hitting 27 deer on the way back, and then all the antelope, and you'd see a flock of turkey, and it just was endless. It was like for those people to see that, it was, and then there would just be like elk hanging out on the polo field and shit.
And then they're
was
tripping
cool.
steers right next to
I was
you.
gonna say, or a guy that has only seen fox hunt and hunter horses his whole life sees a steer levitate for the first time. It's like,
Yes, yeah.
they're like,
Yeah.
"Whoa!" People like they allow
Yeah.
this.
And they do steer tripping, and they did the bronc riding, and the broncs would come right through. People would have a picnic right there, and then they'd pick up their picnic basket and get it out of the way because the bronc would just come and just stomp the shit out of all their stuff right there as they were watching.
That was always one of my favorite things to watch. Is you could tell the people in the crowd that have been there a few times.
Yeah.
Like the horse just starts a couple jumps their way. They're like already kind of grabbing their kid, you know, like getting the priorities first. And like the other people are thinking like, oh, he's not going to come all this way.
Yeah.
He's not going to come all
The
the
other
way.
people
Also,
like,
he's in your
When's
face.
the security guard going to step in? And you're like,
Yeah, exactly.
no one's coming to save you.
You are your own rescue. Yeah. Well, man, you guys are getting pretty close to the end of the season right now. What are you guys looking forward to for Fort Worth, or what do you guys expecting?
Well, you hit us at the exact pit of where we're at right now, because Chris has been slogging away in her shop, and I've been working hard, and this is the most pivotal point for Chris and I right now, because we've been working endlessly, and we have little hurdles that we get over, and like we've reached one of those is we've got everything under control. We know the trailer's going to get loaded and we're going to go off with it. but you're exhausted, and you can't really afford to be exhausted because we've got like over 100 people coming that are enthusiastic and are jacked up. So now we got to shift gears and get excited about going. And not saying that we're not. I'm just saying that it's like there's these certain things that happen when you put on a contest. And Chris has been doing like the way things run smooth and stuff like that is like all the numbers, the tags, like there's so many things that people take for granted that they don't quite understand, like the name tags on the anvils and everything. Those things are all laid out in sequence so that we know exactly that the tag is on the right shoe, the person's at the right anvil. All that stuff is laid out, and it's like, and Chris loses hours and hours of sleep thinking about all that
That's
stuff.
something I've wondered for you, Christine, is how long does it take you to prepare for a contest coming up, and like how much time do you have from, say, the last contest until the next time, until you have to like pick back up full steam of getting all either the sweaters or the polos together and then the tags, and how much time do you have to devote to getting ready to a contest?
The day we came home from North Carolina from Joy Heights place at the team contest,
All the way till now.
all the way till now. Yeah, we had boxes sitting in our driveway when we got home, and like I
Just
worked
full on, never ending.
I've sewn every day.
How long does it take for just one sweatshirt?
Well, we don't do them like all like in one. We never do one like completely.
Yep.
Okay.
So we do a bunch of backs. So like the backs take, for this contest, they take like an hour and 40 minutes.
For just one back.
Yeah, yep. And then we do the sleeves, and then the numbers on the sleeves, and the left chest, and the names. And
Wow.
so there's some time involved, but there's a process to it. It kind of has a good flow. It's not like, I don't know. It's cool. It's kind of a nerdy thing to do, but it's.
No, I don't think it's a nerdy thing to do. It's like it is one of those things of like
Everyone
you guys
looks forward
have
to getting one.
forward to get into them, and it's like it doesn't look like your mom made you a sweatshirt. Like, you know, like you're not like, yeah, my grandma made it, so I kind of gotta wear it. You know what I mean? Like you're pumped to wear it because it's put together very well. Like it looks really nice, and everything's like it's very visually appealing. You know, and like I think that's something that the whole entire thing does well. It's like the truck and trailer is sweet looking. When you come up to it, it's a whole. It's a visual event for you. You know, like. So I think it's worth doing that. Hour and 40 minutes just for the backs. That like blows my mind. And like I doubt very many people think of that, like how much time goes into their sweater that they're wearing, but it's like that's a ton. It's a whole skill set that you had to learn.
Yeah, but it's really enjoyable,
And people say like people are amazed that we know their names, and I don't know. I'm the worst at names, but Chris, since she does the sewing and she does the numbers, like you can say a number, like we'll just say someone like, because I know his number is, Carl's number is 187, right? Mm-hmm. Because I know that because our exit for Edgewood is exit number 187. So I can remember that because exit 187 to Edgewood. But if you start spitting out numbers, she can remember, like she's like, well, that's so-and-so's number. I was like, how the fuck do you remember all that? I don't know. And people, what's weird is it's like a litmus test for people, new people, is like people think that we have minions.
Yeah.
It's just you guys.
yeah, it's just us and Susie
and Susie.
Suzanne.
But like people think that we got minions. So when they come to a contest, I think they talk to Chris and they talk to me like we're the minions. Like, surely the owners aren't out here doing this laborious shit.
No. Like, I don't know if I talk to the owner. I just talk to some guy with a bunch of Coke bags and empty water bottles.
The guy on the microphone.
He was grumpy. He's kind of a prick. You know? But,
they should get somebody new on the microphone out there.
Yeah.
That is true. But it like, I guess I like realized who you guys were before I ever went to one. But it's like, I've been to some AFA events, and I'm pretty positive none of them know who the fuck I am. I'm not trying to call her out, but it's like I remember standing in the AFA's at convention and checking in, and I was a speaker that year, and I'm just like, I'm talking to Beth Daniels. She's like, I was looking at these auction items. She's like, oh, you should see what Riley Kirkpatrick's bringing. It's gonna be pretty cool. And I'm just like, well, that's funny because that's me. It's like I just felt so like it's like wow, okay. It's like I'm just another number here, you know. It's like, but that is something about like going to the WCBs. Like you very quickly feel like, you know, it's like I realize it now. Like you walk around the trailer and you see a guy by himself. That guy pretty quickly or a young guy, he gets quickly asked to dinner by somebody. You know what I mean? Of like,
oh yeah, like it does my heart good. Like I'll point someone out, like someone like, let's just say Cole Looper. Cole comes, he's a quiet kid, well-mannered kid, super nice, super enthusiastic, and it just does your heart good to see that he climbs into somebody's vehicle. He's got friends, he's got his posse, he's got people that's really what it's all about.
Yeah.
Oh, it's huge. And that's you touched on something earlier of like by the time you're like right now, you guys are getting like kind of tired, and it's like that's something I want to throw to you guys of like props to you of never like it almost is like you don't have a personal life. You know what I mean? Like I know you guys do have like your own things happening in your own life, but it's like you guys keep this train on the tracks like pretty dang well. You know what I mean? Like there's no bobbles. It's never like, well, grandma's sick. Everybody's got to stay home. You know, like that's just how it's gonna go. Like
that's sad in a way, but it's good in a way.
I don't like. I'm not trying to say. I didn't try to make it to say it's sad, but it's like like it's easy for people to push the quit button. It's really easy. You know what I mean? It's like it's pretty easy for us to be like, well, you know that like the next contest just doesn't work out for me perfect into my work. It's like where you guys keep pushing ahead because I think you guys realize this isn't about you guys always, right?
Well, no. And like it doesn't always go that smooth. So like this is just one story, but we were gonna go to the Virginia contest. I got about 18 miles east of Moriarty, and the fuel pump went out, and so they hauled it back to Moriarty, and the clock is ticking now. The clock is ticking because it's a 3-day drive, and
gotta be there.
I was like, I contact Bodie and everything, and they just couldn't figure it out. They got the fuel pump replaced, but what they did is they got a bad fuel pump for the replacement fuel pump, and so it was a big mystery. But so Bodie gets on the horn, and Daniel Jones says, well, I could bring up some forges, and Carl Via said I could take forges, and everybody pitched in, and so we couldn't locate a fuel pump, and they said, well, there's one in Amarillo. I said, really? I said, so I called Weston Newsom, and I said, Weston, I need a big favor. And he's like, what do you got? I said, can you get a fuel pump and meet me halfway between Albuquerque and Amarillo? And Weston's like, no problem. So I haul ass out there. I get the fuel pump. I bring it back. Weston, we stop at the gas station. I shake his hand. I say, thank you, Weston. And he didn't think no more of it than the man on the moon. He was like, no problem. And it's so it's like, so then I go back. They get the truck running, and I fill it full of fuel, and that truck never shut off because we had burned about 2 days of our 3-day leeway. And so we get out there, but it was just amazing how, like, you know, props to Weston because he didn't think nothing of it. And it was a huge favor to us because it was like it was like to get a fuel pump from another state. And
comes down to you guys have built a community.
Oh, without a doubt.
Well, I bet it's pretty easy to like feel alone sometimes. Where you're like, man, this is all on us. But that was probably a good reminder that you guys aren't alone in this.
Oh, and we get reminded of that all the time. Oh yeah, we do. And so it's kind of weird. I don't know. Are we running out of time?
No, we're good. Man. We're on your guys. Whatever. How much time you guys got?
No, but like, it was kind of weird. When we got the semi and I started driving it, it was like no one really wanted to drive with me because I couldn't fucking drive it. So
It was scary.
Scared. Jesus,
was
take the
scared,
wheel.
But the one thing that we messed up on was the fact that Chris and I always have a road trip going back home to talk about all this stuff that happens. And out of all the things that we do, I would say that's the most important thing that we do is we got to have that time to visit. Otherwise, because that was stressful in our relationship when we wouldn't have that time to visit when we would be done with an event.
It's almost your guys' time to decompress together and just kind of collaborate, like what you experienced throughout the weekend. And like,
you have to have that.
Yeah.
Do you guys have that a lot in everyday life? Like, do you guys have like kind of powwow up and kind of go from there, like little ones, or is it kind of more like wait till after a big event like that and then kind of
Chris
reevaluate?
Chris is the best. I would say the secret to success, and people are going to think this is very minor and minute, but I think it's the secret to all success. Eating dinner every night.
Yeah. So was it harder for you guys when Bodie moved away up to Minnesota? Did it add more to you guys' plate, or is it still kind of the same?
It wasn't. It was hard when he moved.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. But Levi was still home.
Oh, and he still helped you out guys quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
Bodie moving was a good deal in a lot of ways because we like to visit him, and he was starting his own life. But it was hard, but definitely like what Bodie brings to it is a lot of the logistics, I would say, wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's like Bodie makes a playlist for every class of every go.
I wondered, yeah.
So like if he's striking for someone, he's like, hit class 2, day 2,
because he wants that for himself.
Because like he has to make everything retard. Because like Chris isn't, but I'm dangling on the tail of technology. Like it's about ready to fuck my ass off. But it's like so like doing a playlist and shit like that. That's a little bit over my pay grade.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it will never be like match play finals without Eminem. Like,
Exactly.
I cannot hear that song without thinking of match play finals.
Exactly.
Yeah, it burns it into your head. No, I love it. Like it's a atmosphere. it's
so
perfect.
how about
it's fun to look around people who've never been to like the finals of match play. It's fun because they're like it's overwhelming because like I think it's still cool to this day, but like someone the first time they're in the finals of match play, you could tell they're fucking jammed and they're amped up.
Yeah.
Because it's what you're doing, and we kind of got a little bit of theater going on with
everyone's
it too.
Right around you watching. Yeah.
Man, I like, in my opinion of what the like, and I'm probably like, who am I to say, but it's like, match play is the thing the public wants.
Yeah.
It's fast.
Without a doubt.
It's furious. They get to see a result very quickly. They don't even have to really know what's going on to try to choose a winner. You know what I mean? Like of who they're going to root for. Like, and you kind of have to have the public root for somebody for them to be involved in it and want to keep following it, type deal. And it's like, I know there's a lot of horseshoers that want to like say that it's not real horseshoeing. It's like where I think like you guys did adjust it the right way to like, it's hard to argue that it's not real horseshoeing right now. You know what I mean? Of like, it has to meet the basics before it can move on. But it is a thing that's like, the public likes it. And I think that is the class. It's like, we have to be okay with doing those weird things. We're like, I think there's a little bit of a line there is everybody wants to keep things traditional, but it's like, there's a reason Forge and Fire is famous.
Yeah.
And that's because they're going to make you make a knife out of a pile of shit.
Yeah.
Well,
it is sometimes.
The thing is we're starting to get into that. Like I see it on our WCB page. I see it a lot is people are like, go Chris Madrid. And you can see Chris Madrid's customers are starting to get involved in our page. And then you'll see Carl Valla's customers. And a lot of people's customers are starting to get involved. Well, that's what you want.
Yeah.
That's what you want.
Yep.
Because like when we go to Wisconsin to the Midwest Horse Fair and people are like, well, my farrier's the baddest motherfucker that ever shot a horse in his entire life. And you're like, well, where is he? And they're like, that's what I was wondering. The owner's like, I don't see him here. And you're like, yeah.
You're right. That's right.
Well, it's like you see it. People are like, they think their horseshoer can swing a hammer, but then they watch a guy like Money pull a clip, and they're like, "Whoa, okay."
Yeah.
My guy isn't that fast.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it's huge.
So how about the years of late where you were on the AFT and still trying to run the WCB? How hard was that for you guys together? Like, was it still
It was terrible. It wasn't good, but it was good. And when I say that, like, when we started the WCB, we didn't think that either one of our children we didn't know if they would be following, like, we had no idea that Bodie was going to take it to this level, right? Mm-hmm. So he's involved from the ground up, and so is Levi. And now we finally just said, fuck it. And when I say that, is like, if people don't know who we are and what kind of standards we have and what we're trying to be open book, we would love to have Bodie be on the WCB team. We would love to have Levi. And if people think that we're biased or that we're trying to do this for them, then they don't know who we are.
Yeah.
And so the AFT all came about because Bodie needed a vehicle to compete. Mm-hmm. And the AFA was his vehicle in local contests. And so I got into the 2-man draft with him, and we made the team together. What a dream come true.
Did you plan on that, or did it just kind of happen?
No, Bodie wanted to go on the team, and he passed his CJF that night of the competitors meeting.
Oh, goddamn.
And he got enough points to get on there, and I got enough points to get on there. And it was sort of like, man, for a father to get to do something with their son in the same discipline mm-hmm. is like really, well, it was really weird because I didn't know how to act. Yeah. Like, who does know how to act in that kind of situation?
So because it's not like you didn't have team experience.
Well, we had team experience, but I'm just, when your father and son, it's sort of like, You're gonna see with your daughter that you're gonna be like, when do you be a mentor? When do you be a wingman? When do you do all those things? You don't know because there's no one there saying, all right, now's the time to shut up, Riley. All right, shut up. No, now's the time to push her. Now's the time not to be a soccer mom. You know what I mean? It's like, when do you know when to do any of that?
Well, and I'm sure it's like a little bit too. Like I think, me personally, like, I'd be afraid of embarrassing my kid. You know what I mean? It's like,
bingo.
Yeah.
And so the second year I wanted to do it because the second time I wanted to do it because I fucked up the first time completely and badly. And so
you want to prove yourself to him.
Well, I just wanted to have a good time and do it for the intention that it was supposed to be.
Yeah. I see.
Why do you think the first year didn't go good for you?
Because I didn't know how to act. Like, I didn't know if I should stomp a mud hole in his chest or if this, because it's like, when you think about it, it's like not my time. That's what I really believe in the WCB is, it's not about me. Mm-hmm. Like, I think that I have lots of skill sets that help the WCB go forward, and I think I can help people and mentor people. But it's not about. I'm not here to say, back in my day, fuck my day. Now it's your guys' day.
Yeah.
And that's what's so cool about your podcast is it was like, it's good to hear Jake Engler, and it's good to hear Robert Jukes and Andrew and all those guys, because it's not about my day. I've had my day, and I had a good time. I had a fucking really good time.
Yeah.
But I enjoy Chris Madrid and Bodie Trnka and you guys fucking having a good time, and I learn a lot, and I think that everybody's more respectful that it's not about me. just an old guy picking up water bottles. But it's not. It's a good deal, man.
I know you think it's not about you, but it's like it does stem a little bit from you of like you have all of our respect of why. So it's like when you say so, it's like some guys, if they started saying the shit that you've said to me, I'd be like, okay, motherfucker, how about you go improve this a little bit before you are opening your mouth? You know what I mean? It's like, but when you open your mouth, I never like I'm like. It's proved it over and over again. Like tune in, shut the hell up and tune in. It's like, so it is easier to accept. Like, it's not about you, but I don't think it would be as far if it wasn't for you guys. Like, obviously, like you could have gave the WCB to multiple other people. I'm like, all right, go ahead and take this as far as you can. And it wouldn't have gone very far because they wouldn't have been able to start it where it was or know what you guys knew as observers.
Well, I
and
think
as a competitor,
Chris and I definitely like, I would talk mad shit to you, Riley, but I would never do it without, like, the outcome is supposed to be positive.
Yeah.
And
No,
I mean,
not to
like,
your face, Riley.
It's hard.
no, but I mean, like
No,
yeah,
that's
man,
one of my favorite
everybody-
things about Craig. Is like you and Quick are kind of like, if I want a good old dose of reality, I'm gonna ask you guys what you think on an opinion because you're gonna like, because like I know like you do the same. Like if I ask you a question and you kind of like. You get quiet for a second and you're like, this is going to be good. Like, it's going to be, like, it's going good places. Because I don't do well with the great pats on the backs over and over again. It's like, I bet you realize that about so like you probably know the people of like I gotta give him a pat on the back or this guy's like he kind of needs a little bit of a stomping.
That's what's weird about the announcing. The announcing is like for the most part you're trying to put people in their comfort zone, and sometimes just by saying their name you put them like they hit themselves in the dick when they try to start bumping their bar stock. It's like not
excited.
good, and I hope that people know that I'm trying to like. I've said this a million times, and I think we believe this wholeheartedly. Is we definitely want to set people up to where they get better. I mean, winning is fun, but you want people to get better. Yeah. And there's some people who have left the WCB who have never won anything in it, but have left, and I don't think they have any remorse or any regrets. I think they're a better horseshoer after they've left it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I knew
it's set up
numerous
that way
people
very well.
that way that talk like that.
And so it's like we don't want to keep you guys too long. Seems like you guys are going to keep just fighting the good fight then and just keep rolling on, huh?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think both Chris and I have just so you know, Chris is a badass basketball player. She has a big old thick like newspaper clippings and stuff like that. Chris is
from a previous life.
But Chris is like without Chris, none of this works because there's so many good ideas, but Chris is always the one that facilitates all the ideas. And it's like and I'm not sitting here trying to say this because she's sitting right beside me, but like it's like you see people come into the WCB and they're not matched up well with who their partners in life are. And it's like I scored big time in the partner of life thing. And it's like it's not a small thing, it's a huge thing. And it's a huge thing in like competing. It's like the people who flourish, they don't flourish by mistake. It's like if you have someone who's draining you at home, you're not going to do well. And if you have somebody that doesn't believe in your dream, and I don't think that horseshoeing is a selfish dream because I think you make mad amounts of cash flow. So it's like it's not like you're a drug addict. It's not like you're a wannabe pool player. You're making good money while you're competing. So it's a good thing. And I don't see anything bad. Like I see almost everybody on your show they've done good with their family, with their life, with a home, with all those things.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely a teamwork thing, though. I think, obviously, without Craig, it doesn't work. So we just make a good team.
Yeah.
Takes all you guys in order to put it all together and bring
like
each
we
other
didn't see each
together.
other until we put this mic on tonight, because I'm out in my shop doing shit and she's out in her shop doing shit, and we're just like doing mad amounts of stuff, and then we come in here, turn the lights on, and get after it. You know what I mean? But it's like, it's fun. We could spend 3 or 4 days in a grind like this, and I'm in my shop and she's out in her shop, and we kind of intersect here and there. But for the most part, we doing lots of stuff.
Sometimes that's what a relationship needs, right? Is both sides having their own interests and not being smothered.
I wouldn't even say like own interests is too, but it's like if the other person's doing their part.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty easy to feel like I don't know the word, like I'm not gonna word it right, but it's like unappreciated. I don't think that's the word, of like you're like, well, I'm doing fucking everything here. It's like once you feel like that, it's hard to get out of that. It's like
I would think
Without
so.
a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
no,
Without a
and
doubt.
I think you guys personally, for a lot of like family things, like we honestly, if I would have just listened to Kathleen Poor, I would have never had a kid. But thankfully, Christine straightened it out a little bit for me. It's like, it's gonna be all right. You can have a kid. You aren't gonna fuck it up too much. It was pretty good. But it is like, that's it. That was the goal of like, I'm glad that we were able to get you guys on here and get people a peek into who, you know what I mean? Because I don't think, like you saying it, but you never, like, that blows my mind that you've never heard Andrew Nielsen say some of these things of what he's gotten out of him. Gotten out of it, because you assume, right? You assume that you know.
Oh, and
so that's,
don't get me wrong. Andrew's been nothing but complimentary, and we've had good long conversation. It's just fun to hear things that weren't like that you didn't try and extract it out of him. Like, hey, what do you think of this shirt? What do you think of this shirt? What do you think of this shirt? It's sort of like that. That was kind of, and it's fun because when you're talking to these people, they volunteer, and we do want the WCB to be important. We do want the WCB to help people. And so it is so rewarding for us to hear these people like Chris Madrid and Andrew, everybody you've had on your show. I mean, I kind of feel shitty because it feels like it's a promo for the WCB. And I mean, on the other hand, I feel good because I like, man, it just does my heart good to know that people see it the same way we want to do it. It's a church. We want to make difference in people's lives, and we don't want to hurt anybody, and we want to make people do better.
Well, I'm sure it's good for people to hear it from you guys the same way, of that you guys, how much you guys appreciate them and how much you guys appreciate everything going on. Like, it's, I'm sure a lot of people that are going, like, they like hearing this from you. And me and Gavin have talked about that. It's like, man, we want to get everybody's side from these things, but it's like, this is our damn show, and it's like, we're gonna talk to the people that interest us, and it just so happens the people that interest us are also WCB members and people that have been going, because they're pretty like-minded.
And it's like they're not bad people, and you know what? People who make roadsters, they glue on shoes. People who make roadsters, they do all this other stuff, and people act like they're weirdos that only are infatuated with steel, but steel and fire has been one of the greatest things in the whole wide world, and it will continue to be one of the greatest things in the whole wide world. And so I guarantee you there's nothing bad that we're doing.
No, I agree.
A question I asked Chris Madrid at the end of the podcast was like, who's on his Mount Rushmore? Like, who are the top 4 people that he looks up to? Who would be kind of like top 4 people that you look up to?
Have you been thinking about that, honey?
Yes, I've been thinking.
Well,
you go first.
Well, it's an unfair question because a lot of people have helped me so much. So I feel like I would be alienating a lot of people. But I will answer it. I will say number 1 is Christine Trnka. Number 2 would be I would say Jim Poor. Edward Martin, and probably and this is just where I'm at right now in my life, but I would say Chad Chance. He's really
cool.
made me see things completely different. I think those 4 people have had a huge impact on my life. But then you sit there and you say, well, Tom Willoughby, Shane Carter, fucking Bob Pethick. You know, you just go dot, 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 dot.
Keep going
All
and
these
going.
people, it's just endless. So to say the 4 that got to be on there, it's hard because I feel like I shit on a lot of people that should be on there.
It is a tough question, but yeah, can constantly change and evolve.
What about you, Chris?
Well, I think probably, obviously, my number 1 would be Craig. 'Cause he's
Craig?
Just about everything. Aw.
It's cute. It's cute.
Then I think probably I'd have my grandma and my mom on there.
Okay,
Yes.
nice.
Because they're
pretty cool people.
they're really, really cool people, and probably the kindest, most honest people you'll ever meet. They're
Well,
awesome
the
ladies.
apple doesn't fall very far from the
No,
tree then.
thanks.
That's for sure.
Yeah,
And
this
then
has been great.
my last one's kind of a weird one, and it kind of goes back to my basketball background, but I'd say John Wooden.
Oh, really?
That's a good one.
I'm not sure I know who that is.
John Wooden was the coach of the UCLA men's basketball team, and they had a reign of like 10 years where they were nothing but dominant. They won 7 championships in a row.
Yeah.
Is he somebody you had personally met before?
No, he just was somebody that I think probably my high school basketball coach learned a lot from Coach
him.
Wooden. Yep, and so like looking back, you can definitely see after I've had a chance to kind of study John Wooden and his works, like you can definitely see there were a lot of lessons learned there, and then those lessons just kind of stuck with me, and
they're lessons like people take for, like when you tell people that they need to have a good hammer shaft, they're like, they look at you condescending like, I know what a good hammer shaft is. And it's like John Wooden would start his basketball season teaching the guys how to put their socks on. And half the people in the room would be like, we know how to put socks on. And he's like, no, you put your socks on this way because if you get a blister, that means that teamwork is suffering because one person can't perform as well for the team. And so it's like John Wooden is like a lot of the things that we steal things from everybody, and we steal shit from everybody, but it's all about teamwork and humility. I think teamwork and humility rules the world, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. No, I would agree completely. I don't even follow basketball very much at all, but I know who he is just from his
I don't
his coaching reputation.
I know Michael Jordan.
That's a force to be reckoned with too.
That's a good one to know. If you're gonna know one, that's a good one.
Yeah. Well, man, we appreciate you guys coming on here with us very much. You guys, we were trying to schedule this is like kind of like, man, you're bouncing one after another. That's what I told Gavin. I was like, as soon as they tell us a day that we got to do it, we got to cancel everything else. Because we got to do.
I'm glad you let us come on. It's been an honor to let us come on here, dude.
Yeah, thank you guys. This was cool.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys for devoting so much of your life for an arena for the rest of us and creating this community. It has given guys like me and Gavin a outlet and a sense of belonging to something, and that goes pretty far in life usually.
Yeah.
So
man,
we appreciate it.
That's cool. That means a lot.
It does.
Yeah, we appreciate it. And we'll probably see you guys here in a few months.
You guys are coming to the winter clinic, right?
We're gonna be there. Yeah,
and
that's the plan.
I think it'll be cool. You guys do a lot of podcasts live. I think that would be badass.
Yeah. I think it'd be sweet.
No,
cool.
That's right. Yeah, it'd be awesome.
People stop by and just get them done.
All right. Well, we'll twist a few horns when we see you guys there.
Cool. Thank you guys.
Cool.
See
Thank you.
See you then.
See you guys.
See you guys.